Logging in, why don't you go ahead and chat in some introductions. Hello, by the way, welcome to Food Bill Action Team number 2. My name is Wendy. I'm with Nourish Colorado. I will say this again. You are stuck with me again today. My coworkers, Amy and Terry, who are going to be leading this call and actually do work on our state policy work. One is in a board meeting and the other is in the pre-hearing press conference for the Ag Worker Rights Bill. So you're stuck with me again today. Big caveat is that my co-workers, Terry and Amy, actually lead our state legislative work, not me. So bear with me as I go through some of the content today. So as you're just logging in the chat, since we are going to be talking more about sort of orientation around the state and what's going on at the state level in terms of food systems policy, as I'd love to have your name, organization, location, and who your state legislators are. I'm typing, and I'm all alone, so bear with me as I'm like typing in the chat and talking and all of this. So please introduce yourself via chat. I will model by saying I'm Wendy Peters Muschetti with Nourish Colorado, based in Denver, although we work across the state. But my personal folks are Representative Judy Amabile and Senator Stephen Finberg. So I am going to chat that in. So I model sort of what we're doing for our introductions today. And again, no worries if you're like scrambling to figure this out, but because we are talking today about state level policy, and we do have a link in the PowerPoint that I will pull up here in a minute about like actually finding your state legislators, but I thought it'd be really good practice right now to have us all kind of scramble and be like, wait, who are our state legislators? So this is going to be really important as we move forward and we talk on today's call about getting to know your state legislator, so your state representative and your state senator. And we will be saving this chat, so it also just helps us have sort of a good record of like, okay, where are people at across the state and which legislators are representing you. So again, if you're just joining us, please mute your phone or computer if you are not talking, and please introduce yourself via chat with your name, organization, affiliation if you have one, where you're at, location, and then who your state representative and your state senator are. I do not mean to make this a quiz, but it is good practice. And you can even Google right now if you need to, who is my state legislator, Colorado? And it will take you to the General Assembly Find Your Legislator website. So good afternoon, everybody. With that, I am going to sort of get us kick us started. I'm going to kick us into gear here and share my screen. Hopefully I can do this. Nope. Give me a minute here, everybody. Oh yeah, you get to see everything here. All right. Thank you for all the chats. Oh, sorry, everybody. I'm trying to share my screen. I'm doing a really poor job of it. All right. So everybody, please, again, this is going to be, oh, great. I see a couple things I want to address right now too. We are asking for you to type in today your state level representatives and legislators, because we're talking about state level policy, so not your federal. So who is represents you at the Capitol in Denver, not in Washington, D.C. That's what we're asking for. So love that some of you have this. If you need to do a quick Google for who is my state legislator, please go do that now and introduce yourself. So also a caveat, again, this is Wendy here. If you're just joining us with Nourish Colorado, Food Bill Action Team number 2. The focus of today is mostly going to be on sort of state policy. There's the state of the state, since we are in the middle of the state legislative session. Couple of other caveats. Again, my coworkers, Amy and Terry, generally lead this work. Neither, it turns out, could be on the call today, so have a little bit of patience with me. I'm learning here too. Also, I am alone, so it turns out it's a little tricky on Zoom. I can't see you, read the chat, and do screen share all at the same time. So please, there aren't like a whole bunch of people on the call. If for some reason I'm missing a chat, please, and that is important, or you need, please just unmute yourself and just interrupt me and jump right in. I am going to be kind of doing some rapid fire content today. So please just interrupt me if I'm going too fast or I need to pause, or if you have any questions about what I'm saying at all. Otherwise, please do keep your computer or your phone muted. Other than that, for the duration of the call. Last caveat as well about today is that similar to our first FBAT call, when we talked about sort of the state of federal food systems policy, today is going to be probably just a lot of Wendy talking and probably a lot of too much content too fast. And I promise starting in April, we're going to be shifting much more into sort of like collective action and discussion and working more together. But we just wanted to do a quick orientation of what the heck is going on at the state level right now anyway. So with that, again, please do like unmute, interrupt me if there's a chat or question that I'm not addressing. I can't see them all at the same time. So today, agenda between now and 12:30. Hopefully you're all chatting in your introductions. Again, if you just joined us, please do chat in name, location, affiliation, and who your state level legislators are. So your state senator representative that represents you here in Colorado at the Capitol in Denver. Today, I'm going to go over a little bit of the state of the Colorado legislative session, flag some bills of interest. Again, not all going to be exhaustive in any way, shape, or form, but we'll flag some sort of food systems bills that we know are active right now in the state legislature, and do a brief sort of recap COVID relief update from the federal level, and then end, of course, with sort of actions that we can all take, resources, and information on the next call. If you have any questions or additions, please type them in now, and I'm going to keep moving. All right, and I'm assuming if for some reason you guys aren't tracking my slides or you can't see them, please just someone unmute and interrupt me. So just a really quick sort of note before I dive into actual state legislative session is there are lots of other ways the state is getting involved with food systems work right now, primarily through COVID relief. That is sort of a separate parallel process to the legislative session right now. So I just wanted to circle back again and again in some of these slides I'll go through really quickly, but we will send these slides out with the recording of this call afterwards. So a lot of this content is really like for your reference moving forward. So just a real quick recap, in addition to what they're doing with the state's general budget and through the legislative process, there are other things the state has been up to. At the end of 2020, the governor closed out the year with a state emergency fund. So we just included some bullets here about sort of what the state has been funding in terms of food systems and food access. So there has been funding for food pantries, lots of various support to help undocumented residents and accessing public services, housing and rental assistance, a lot of support for small business, rural areas, infrastructure development, and things like that. So just to note and a reminder that we are still operating under some of the state emergency fund, and we have a lot more funding coming to the state. So as you know, and we talked a little bit about on the federal call 2 weeks ago, since then, to no one's surprise, the full $1.9 trillion federal relief package did pass. It is moving forward. Out of this, about $350 billion will be coming to the state of Colorado. One thing I did want to flag, and again, the link to this, I will send out the PowerPoint, you will have it, is that there is a pretty extensive group of organizations that have been convened by the Blueprint and Hunger, with many other coalitions that have come together to write a collective letter to Governor Polis with very specific recommendations of how to direct and allocate some of that $350 billion towards anti-hunger and food systems priorities. So I've included a link in the letter here with the big caveat that this is draft. It will not go to the governor for probably maybe like a week and a half is the goal to go to the governor. Let's see how quickly it can move past that. So please don't share it, but it's nothing to hide. So when I send these out, if you kind of want to see what requests are going forward, you will have a link to this. There's a variety of requests in there to continue support for food banks and food pantries, and for there's work that we put in there about supporting ongoing produce boxes for WIC families and older adults. There's a lot about protecting food and farm workers and direct relief for agriculture. So just to note, we are working on that front as well. So moving into the state legislative process. And again, please, as we go, unmute and interrupt me. If you have questions, or I'm trying to catch the chat as well, so type in questions as we go as well. So in addition to sort of COVID relief and where the state has a little bit of control and opportunity, we are also in the middle of the state legislative cycle. So here in Colorado, just super, super high level orientation, we operate generally under a 2-year cycle, which is sort of confusing because it follows the election cycle. So we're in the first regular so-called session of the 73rd General Assembly, which will be a 2-year cycle. However, the legislative process operates just in a 1-year fashion, right? So each session closes like in January, ends in early May, typically. So a couple of things to note about how the bill process works here in Colorado. Bills die at the end of each session. So like typically, which is early May, although not this year, which I'll get to, the bill dies, right? And oftentimes very same content will be resurrected the next year, but as an entirely new introduction and bill process each year. In Colorado, obviously the budget must be balanced, and the budget must be signed by the governor after all of this is said and done. Couple of quick things to note, nothing surprising here. Really important context for how the state legislative process works in Colorado is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, TABOR. So if anyone wants to talk more about the Taxpayer Bill of Rights offline, please just email me. Very, very high level is that we are capped here in the state of Colorado in terms of when there is sort of excess over a certain amount of revenue that the state makes. The state is limited and constrained as to how it cannot spend money past a certain kind of cap that is put on the state. And excess revenue does go back to the taxpayer. So the bottom line is it does make it very uniquely challenging at times in the state of Colorado to introduce bills that have a fiscal note, right? So if you've hit your TABOR cap, and there are a lot of bills that are actually asking for money, it's sometimes really hard to move those forward. So just a couple of things to note about the process and timeline here in Colorado. So this, again, I'm just flagging this. I'm not going to walk through this, but this PowerPoint will be sent out. What I'll be sharing when I send this PowerPoint out is there'll be a video to this as well. So my coworker, Chef Jess, put together this sort of how a bill becomes a law process using a bill that we developed and led and passed in 2019, House Bill 191132, which was the local school food purchasing program. So I put this slide in here just again for reference for the future of how a bill becomes a law. And when I send this out, there'll be a hyperlink into of Chef Jess actually explaining this entire process using it's totally Schoolhouse Rock. You can sing the song as you go here, Schoolhouse Rock. How a bill becomes a law. There will be a video of how Chef Jess literally explaining this step-by-step of a bill we actually were involved with and actually got passed. And you can see here's Chef Jess and here's me and we're testifying and here we all are with the governor getting the bill signed. So this one actually had a really good fun story. So we thought we'd use it as an example. So just as FYI, this is coming as a resource. Oops, sorry guys. So state of the session in Colorado now. So a couple unique things to focus on right now is that because of COVID, it isn't the typical January through May session. We actually had a special session at the end of 2020, and then it started typically in January, took a month-long break, and resumed. So the session will end June 12th this year. This will not, hopefully, will never happen again. But it means that we won't have all bills, won't be, signed, sealed, delivered. We'll be signing the budget until much later than usual. Just to note too, if you're interested in following activities in the Capitol, there isn't a whole lot. Obviously, people aren't convening and lobbying, testifying in person the same way as usual at the Capitol. You can still watch hearings just the same as you always can. So actually, I should have included that link as well, but you can go to the Colorado General Assembly website and you can find a way to actually actively watch any hearing that's happening on any bill. So if you want to watch from afar. So the budget, a couple things is that the state that are going to be very telling about what the rest of the legislative session is going to look like is that the state budget forecast, the revenue forecast probably is coming out, this is coming out this Friday, right? And then hopefully state budget finalized next week. So far, very high level, the state budget forecast is actually looking much better. There is more money there than we had anticipated. They cut so far back last year because of COVID. There's actually sort of more money in the coffers right now. So the revenue forecast is actually looking pretty good here in the state of Colorado, and we'll know a lot more after Friday. And that again, will be really telling about sort of bills moving forward, especially that have fiscal notes and sort of what the likelihood of that will be. Another important thing to note is who is controlling the House and the Senate. So obviously we have a Democratic governor. It is completely democratically controlled at this point. So we're actually one of, I can't forget, maybe 2 states that are in this situation right now. This isn't very common. And it hasn't been ever for Colorado, and it probably may not happen again. But in turn, obviously, the governor is a Democrat, and then we have the Democrats have a strong majority in the House and a fairly substantive majority in the Senate as well. So that just as sort of context plays out in terms of what is happening, what gets moved forward, what gets passed. It gives one party, for better or for worse, maybe not always the best situation, a significant platform for moving their agenda forward. So now, again, I'm assuming you chat in if you have any questions. But a couple of things too, I just wanted to sort of flag really quickly what bills are of interest that might be out there happening right now that we will continue to track and we can continue to talk about as we get into sort of more interaction when we move forward in the future. So you can't see it here, but this little bill tracker here is hyperlinked. So when you get the PowerPoint, you'll have this hyperlink to our bill tracker. And again, it's just bills that we are tracking as Nourish Colorado. We fully understand this is not the whole universe, but if it's helpful and interesting, you will have the link to our bill tracker. So a couple of food and farm system bills that I do want to flag, and I want to see you go all for a minute, but I can't. And I hear a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure if someone is not muted. If you could mute yourself, that would be great. It's not that distracting. It might be an echo in my ear, but thank you. So a couple things just to note about what the heck's going on right now anyway. One, what we love is our own ask, which is not a bill. We do not have a bill as Nourish Colorado this year. Hence, we're actually tracking and monitoring, supporting many others because we have the bandwidth, is the Healthy Food Incentive Fund. So this is our request through the Joint Budget Committee. So we are not floating a bill, working directly with a 6-member Joint Budget Committee to directly write a request into the state's general budget. It is the Healthy Food Incentive Fund. We did this already in 2018 and secured an annual appropriation of $200,000 cash to be spent on produce purchased directly from Colorado growers to go to participants of federal food assistance programs. We use that primarily as a match for Double Up Food Bucks to buy CSA or weekly produce box shares for WIC families and for older adult congregate meal program participants. We are probably in the millions under demand on this program, it turns out. So we are asking for a small increase, we think, from an annual appropriation of $200,000 to an annual appropriation of $500,000 for the Healthy Food Incentive Fund. I do want to flag this because we may come back and ask for some supporter testimony on this. Right now, it looks very good. We just found out yesterday that we have strong bipartisan support in the Joint Budget Committee to move this forward. And if the budget forecast looks really good on Friday, we are very optimistic about this moving forward. But to flag, if for some reason we need a little support, we may be reaching out to those of you who live in a district with a Joint Budget Committee member to say, hey, can you talk about this program for us? But so far looking very good. We do expect there to be a late bill introduction for the Food Pantry Assistance Grant. I can't see, so if there's anyone from Hunger Free Colorado on the line that wants to unmute and jump in, please do. I can't see if you're here. This would be a continuation of the Food Pantry Assistance Grant, which has been in operation, which does provide directly to food pantries cash to purchase local produce, dairy, other items that are underrepresented in food pantries from Colorado growers. A couple of others to note is the Ag Worker Rights Bill. That bill right now, actually literally right now, there is a pre-hearing press conference going on, and then that will go to Business and Labor Committee this afternoon. If anyone is interested and is tracking this bill, you can watch that hearing this afternoon. The Labor Committee that's reviewing the Ag Worker Rights Bill this afternoon does start at 1:30. I think this is the third bill up. They have a few things to do, and then this is the third bill up. It will be very late afternoon before this bill is heard. But again, you can go to the Colorado General Assembly website and read and watch all about this. So that is very currently going on. Since it's already 12:21, I'm going to keep going quickly through these, but again, very happy to talk more about any of these bills, what's in them, content, things like that, moving forward. Another one that we are tracking is referred to as SNAP Heat and Eat. And this is a very crafty way that other states have used to basically allow SNAP participants, so formerly food stamp SNAP participants, that maybe do not pay for utility assistance, utility bills, to actually claim a credit, a standard utility allowance credit, that therefore would really, really increase their SNAP benefit. It brings significant more federal dollars, increasing SNAP benefit to SNAP households. And again, I can't see you, but if there's anyone from Hunger Free on the line or Blueprint and Hunger that corrects anything I'm saying, please unmute. But that is a bill that has been actively introduced that we are monitoring. I would say too, these 4 bulleted here is an organization. We fully support all of these here, these sort of top 4 bullet points. Obviously, one of them is ours. A couple of other things I just wanted to flag that we are monitoring and tracking and again, you'll get the PowerPoint and you'll get our bill tracker, but there are a variety of sort of housing justice bills that are moving forward this year. I put on here, if you really want to know more, sort of probably the best website to go to is Together Colorado. So I've listed that here if you want to sort of track what's going on in terms of housing justice. There are a variety of what we sort of typify as anti-poverty bills as well as others. The Colorado Center on Law and Policy, you can go to their website and they have a link right on there to their 2021 legislative agenda. That's a good place to go. And then there are a variety of criminal justice reform bills. If you go to ACLU of Colorado, you can go to their 2021 legislative agenda and pull all of those up as well. So I just wanted to flag, without listing all of them, there are lots more that we even as an organization are tracking and monitoring. One I did include here because there are a lot. Other bills of interest are generally sort of immigrant rights bills. A lot of different bills that collectively are aiming to sort of remove challenges and barriers for health and prosperity of immigrant-based households in Colorado, and some seizing new opportunities. So I did want to list these here. Again, you'll get the PowerPoint with all of these. We are members of the Removing Barriers Coalition, Colorado's commitment to equity. So that is one I can certainly speak to more. That effort, which used to be called Fix 2006, because it's intended to fix a lot of challenges that were put forward during the 2006 legislative session for immigrant-based and undocumented households. One thing I will note as you read through this whole list, we are involved with the Removing Barriers Coalition specifically for a few food access related reasons. One is that bill, it is not yet introduced. That's why it doesn't have a bill number when it is. That bill would remove, the bill would allow undocumented households to access, who are paying taxes in the state of Colorado, to access public services. It would allow us to even use our state allocated healthy food incentive fund to anyone who is food insecure in the state of Colorado, not just a federal food assistance program participant. And it does a lot to allow licensing of new small businesses. So there, as an example, one that we're very interested in, there are a lot of immigrant-based households, undocumented-led households who are providing childcare, for example, in their communities and feed these kids on a daily basis and cannot participate in, say, federal food reimbursement programs to feed those kids. This bill would actually sort of remove those barriers to licensing and allow childcare to, say, participate in the child and adult care food program, another thing, and many, many other things. So those are a few that we are interested in and watching. So that is state. Whew, I know we have 5 minutes left. That is state, that stuff, that's orientation, how this works. This is stuff that we're monitoring. And the next couple of slides are really just for sort of like references. I send them out. I did want to loop back a little bit to sort of what we talked about in terms of federal work last time. It is like marker bill extravaganza in DC right now. So marker bills are an opportunity for our federal delegation, legislators, basically to start introducing concepts that they're really passionate about. The big piece of federal legislation coming is Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act, which we mentioned on the last call. And this is, so already we see marker bills being introduced that legislators, advocates are hoping will make it, the components of these marker bills will make it into the final Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act. So there's a list here of marker bills that have been introduced. The ones I italicized, components of these have already been included in COVID relief. So step one, that's a really big win, right? A lot of these are going forward in the federal COVID relief package. We would love to see a lot of these be made permanent through a legislative process. The one we are very supportive of and tracking is there's been one farm to school marker bill already introduced, and that is the Farm to School Act of 2021. We will continue to talk about this and mobilize around this. if anyone is familiar with the former Farm to School Act, what it does is it triples the amount of money in the USDA Farm to School grant program and very intentionally broadens who and how can benefit and participate from this. So it builds sort of stronger partnerships with tribal entities, tribal governments. It enables sort of before, during, after, and summer and early care meals to also participate in farm to school grants, and more clearly directs some of these grants to what the USDA generally refers to socially disadvantaged farmers and rancher partners. So more coming on that, Farm to School Act 2021. This is super small because I don't expect to read or talk about it. I did want to include a slide here to loop back with all of you from our call 2 weeks ago about what actually passed in the COVID relief package. Basically, everything we talked about 2 weeks ago is fully integrated into the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package. So there's a lot of good news in here for food and farm systems, for food assistance, for food access, for direct relief to growers, all sorts of great things. So just flagging this in case you want to read it in your free time. And then moving on to sort of what we do together moving forward. So as we sort of spoke last time, based on what your organization support, there's some opportunities to act on some specific bills right now, but the name of the game right now is also get to know your legislators. They need to get to know you. So as I said around the Healthy Food Incentive Fund, which again is our request to the Joint Budget Committee, looks promising. So we may not need any help on that, but we'll call you if we do. I've included some links here there's an active sign-on for Senate Bill 87, which is the Ag Workers' Rights Bill. I've included links about how to get involved with Together Colorado, for example, if sort of housing justice is sort of where you're focused right now. And I've included a link to information around support removing barriers, that coalition, which again is sort of the one we're involved in that I spoke to. There may be a need to get together and support COVID relief requests to the state. So that collective letter I mentioned being helmed by sort of the Blueprint to End Hunger about saying, hey, Governor Polis, here's how we want you to spend COVID relief dollars around food and farm systems. There may be some ways to activate and mobilize on that, but we're going to know more in a couple of weeks. And again, for now, at the state and federal level, it's about getting to know your legislators. So when coffee and town halls become a thing again at the state level, go to them. Start reaching out, and you can do site visits in a time of COVID. So start reaching out, have your state reps know your work. And on the federal side, especially because child nutrition reauthorization is coming, it's coming soon. We know that now. It is a really good time on the federal level, again, the national level. If you are working on anything that has to do with WIC, if you're doing anything to farm to school, anything with summer meals, like contact your federal delegation, let them know who you are, talk about why this work is so important, invite them to site visits, let them see and hear about what your work is. We really want, there's a lot of opportunities with child nutrition reauthorization right now. So that is what the game is all about. If you want any help or assistance in talking to your legislators, we are here to help you do that. Resources, it's the same slide as last time, I'm just including it. And then next time, so since we're already at 12:30, next time is keep inviting other people to Food Bill Action Team. We'll include the link to Advocate for Hunger Action Week, which is next week, so it's still cool to sign up. You can track our policy updates at North Colorado. And then the next meeting is April 14th. And we are going to be hearing from the staff, hopefully both, from Representative DeGette's office and Representative Perlmutter's office. So again, these are both our federal delegation, and then we're hopefully going to get one state staffer as well. And the April 14th conversation is going to be more hearing from staffers is like how to find us, how to reach us, how to talk to us, what are convincing messages, and how to kind of build those relationships there. So that was a whole lot of talking. You guys have been very patient with me as I muddle my way through state. So we're at the official 12:30, and I'm done with our presentation. I will hang out for a few minutes because we'll end the recording and we'll capture all of the chat. So if anyone does have any additional comments or questions, please feel free to ask me now as we close it out. And if not, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you on April 14th.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. Oh yeah, it is St. Patrick's Day.
Casey, with that reminder, I'm just going to close the computer and go put some corned beef on.
Right?
It's all here. We even went for cabbage.